The meme coin hype is finally slowing down, which I'm kind of happy about because it kind of makes crypto look like a joke. And it also gives me a little bit of FOMO watching those massive gains when really I know looking at those projects, they're just going to absolutely bleed me dry. But in crypto, money just flows from one narrative to another. We've gone from the meme coin narrative, and now we're just absolutely pumping the AI deep in narrative. And if you haven't already got in on those, it's probably best to just wait a little bit. I know your little FOMO brain saying, I need to buy, but probably best to wait for a bit of a pullback. You want to be looking at the next thing that people will be pushing their weight into, and I believe one of those is going to be Kaspa. Before we get into it, guys, like and subscribe if you like the video. But anyway, your FOMO brain is going wild right now. Crypto is absolutely booming, and it's tough to know what to do, where to invest, and what to think. So I'm not going to promise you a 50, 100x. I'm not going to promise you anything because none of this is financial advice. But Kaspa, I think, still has a ways to go. I still think we can hit that $20 billion market cap. We're currently sitting at 3.4. We're experiencing a little bit of a pullback after a massive rally, but people are just cycling their money. Essentially, people are taking some profits and putting it into other things. And just because it's not growing as fast doesn't mean it's nowhere near as good of a project. But if we actually dive into Kaspa, look at Kaspa, Kaspa is a great project because it had a very fair launch, which unlike a lot of projects is actually kind of rare to say in some sense. There was very little VC funding in Kaspa, minus an 8 million sort of at the start, but they've been doing a lot of this with very little resource, and that has actually been a part downside for Kaspa's growth. They're still yet to release smart contracts, which will facilitate proper DApp development, so that's kind of holding it back in some sense, but it's also created this community which are absolutely behind Kaspa 100%, and they're not technically wrong. There is some application for this, and I'll discuss at the end of the video my unbiased thoughts on the potential for Kaspa and where I think it could go. But the community is not necessarily wrong. It is the first proof of work that has real true scale. It can scale much further than Bitcoin ever could hope to dream of, whilst keeping the security of proof of work. And when compared to the likes of proof of stake, obviously that is much less secure in the sense that anyone can potentially control a lot of the network just by staking a lot of the coins. So proof of work is the concept that Bitcoin originally created, and that dream is carried through Kaspa. But Kaspa upgrades that by using the block DAG, so essentially it can process blocks in any order, as opposed to Bitcoin, which would just post the blocks one by one, and this would just build up a lot of congestion, creating gas problems. And Solana, Ethereum, etc. look to change this by changing the whole proof of model to something unique to them, but the cost of this was security, and Kaspa keeps all that security whilst perfecting the Bitcoin trilemma of security, decentralization, solving the blockchain trilemma of decentralization, security, and scalability. Where does Kaspa really fit into all of this? Because we have Solana, right? Solana has already got a ton of dApps already been built, and the problem with a lot of this is it is kind of first to market. If people have built and spent a lot of time building their dApps on the Solana chain, not really going to want to do the work elsewhere unless there really is an issue there. And potentially that issue may arise in the security as well as the decentralizedness of the network. And when Kaspa does release its smart contracts, it could be the case that there are some niches within the application space which would require, or personally request, that the network be more secure and decentralized, and this is where Kaspa shines. It's got that proof of work concept which gives it that absolute security, so these applications might opt for Kaspa over Solana, and this would help grow Kaspa's ecosystem. Now this is a lot of hypotheticals. I don't know whether this could be necessarily an issue on Solana or whether they'll solve it, but it's something to keep in mind. If you think about it, a lot of issues, a lot of things that you see come up, like this whole AI narrative, we didn't really see it coming. The whole GPT 3.5 thing just kind of hit us, and then everything just started booming. So it's good to keep ideas in your head of what could potentially happen, and then you can see news and articles around those issues surfacing. Perhaps you start to see issues around Solana security, decentralization, and then you're expected to think what could solve this issue. If you look back at when the NFT space was absolutely booming, this just highlighted how much of an issue in the scalability of Ethereum there was, and people were looking for alternatives. People were looking for something that could do much faster transactions, that had much more scalability. Thus, everyone turned to Solana. Everyone thought that Solana could address the issues that Ethereum had, and it didn't have any more or less security because it wasn't using the proof of work as well. So Solana just absolutely boomed because this issue arose. So in that light, if we start to see issues with Solana security and decentralization, that's going to accelerate the move to Kaspa. And that's just something to look out for when you're seeing news, etc., because you can get ahead of those narratives. But I get it, guys, big hypothetical what ifs, but these things do happen and it could well be a possibility. And that is kind of what Kaspa's role is trying to perfect that security and decentralization. So we need to look for any of those moves that would suggest that people are going to move into Kaspa. And nonetheless, I still think we're going to see a lot of development on Kaspa, and even if we don't have those issues arise, nonetheless, it's not a bad project to be putting some money into. I wouldn't be saying put all of your money into it and go all in. I know Kaspa community, you're going to hate me for this, but it's still very early doors. It is a very good blockchain. It has a lot of capabilities, but it still hasn't even released smart contracts yet. And we can take a look at the roadmap. Things are still sort of in development, but we've still got smart contracts in planning, and they're still thinking about whether they're going to do a layer 2 on this, like a roll up. So it's still kind of early on that, but I'm sure what they produce is going to be very good. So I don't doubt that Kaspa is going to pull it off, but until we see that, it's definitely going to be slower. This is a crazy bull market and we're just seeing green across the board. And I don't think you're going to be sad in terms of returns on Kaspa. Like I say, I still think we can kind of hit that 20 bill market cap. Solana hit 70 last bull run. And realistically, it was just driven off the push of people thinking that Ethereum had scalability issues. So there is a school of thought that proof of work and obviously Kaspa is the much better option because it has that scalability, it has the security, everything. So you wouldn't be wrong in thinking that Kaspa community. And we can see in the last bull market that did not matter for Solana because people just thought this is the next one. It just went crazy and it has a great community, a very vocal community that are very active across all socials. So when all those retail FOMO investors come in that this is the safest option, etc., and a good portion will absolutely pile in. Now, where are we from here? Where should you possibly get in? Well, as you can see, we're seeing a bit of pullback as likely a lot of people are just moving their money into the AI coins because they're seeing green, and that FOMO is kicking in. So I still think we got a little bit more of a pullback to come, maybe around this zone, the 0.13, and that would still probably be a good buy zone. I don't think you're going to see any absolute tankings anytime soon. I still think there's a pullback across the board potentially coming. The market is just way too euphoric right now. I think it's a good project, but at this time, I would probably only invest 5-10% of your money and just keep an eye on the news. And like I say, if you start to see any security or decentralized issues, well, even some industries just talking about how they think Kaspa is a better choice just because of the security. That's when you should be paying more attention to the project and just keeping an eye on it because it is a very unique project and it looks to solve an issue that perhaps no other crypto chain does. Just a good one to keep an eye on. I think it's still got some run like most projects. It's hard to say anything's going to go down. Unless you're literally buying goldfish coins, I don't think you're going to have a hard time. Just spread yourself out. Catch on to every narrative. This is the proof of work narrative, the security, etc. narrative. You want to be in the AI narrative, you want to be in the DeepIn narrative, you want to just be in every narrative, just diversified, and just so that you don't miss the pushes on each industry. But nonetheless, guys, if you liked the video, like and subscribe.